Welcome to another episode of Safe Space, the podcast for family business leaders. Today we're joined by Eva Fischer out of Pune in India. Eva, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm very happy to be here.
So Eva, you were mentioning that you're there working with a family, and then you're going to spend a few weeks after in India. Are you excited to be in India?
I'm very excited to be in India. And basically, I must admit, I'm not working with the family, but I met the family at a family business conference last year. And we really connected in the history of issues and joy and and this fascinating thing to be a part of a family business.
You know, and India is an interesting market because the majority of the businesses there are family owned.
Yeah, but basically, that is how it is for the rest of the world also.
Yes, that's true.
Yeah.
So can you give the audience a little bit of background about you and where you come from and what you do, and then we'll get into the show itself.
Yeah, I am Danish, living in Copenhagen now, after spending 33 years in Norway. And I moved to Norway in '87 because I wanted to be a sailmaker. And in Denmark, no sailmakers wanted to hire a female pupil. So then I had to go to another country which was a little more liberal. And then I stayed in Norway. I had my sailmaking workshop for 15 years. I got 2 kids, which is a boy and a girl, which is now 23 and 27. And in 2005, I think I joined the family business, who had absolutely nothing to do with sailmaking. We do heat cost allocation and invent heat cost meters. But the sailmaking business it's like a 24/7 business, and it's very physically hard. And also now no sales is sown in the Scandinavian countries. Everything is made in the Far East because of price and yeah. So it was a very tough business to be in. And then I moved back to Denmark in Copenhagen. I live in Copenhagen in 20.
Okay. So let's talk about, I think something that's quite sensitive, and I don't think enough is being done about it, which is women in family business, senior roles, and actually women in senior roles across the board. Why do you think that is, Eva?
I think there's a lot of different reasons. Basically, because there's a very, very old system of the oldest son. And for some reason, it's still quite much alive in the family business, even in Scandinavia. So it still becomes like a natural choice. And in our families, it was also my big brother who basically went into the family business in the CEO position. And I think then there's also another reason, because actually a lot of women are quite active in the family business, but they are very invisible. They often jump in if there's trouble, if they need something to be done. They do often lead the philanthropy, which many family businesses have, but the philanthropy is often not paid because you have the road there and you want to do a change in the world for maybe poor people and stuff like that. So you don't want to give yourself a salary because it seems a little wrong maybe. And when you often work for free, as also the women I speak with who's just jumping in and taking a position for a short time just to fix something, then they're not a part of the history, because if you can't find them in the accountant sheet, then you cannot find them in the history. So I think there's a very blind spot. And I think it's important that we focus on that, because if we are not a part of the history, we are also not a part of the future, and we will not be very good front figures for new women coming up. And that's important.
And what's interesting is there was a study, and I don't have the correct data. I do believe it was from Harvard, that shared that women are better leaders as inheritors than men.
And I totally agree about that.
And some,
No, I'm
yeah,
joking.
some of the reasons were, women are more emotionally connected, they're more sensitive. They don't have testosterone like the guys do, so they don't have anything to prove. They're just there to serve. So their whole mental set is different. And they tend to be more collaborative than combative.
Mm.
So what can women do to, I don't know, assert's probably the wrong word, to really claim their place in leadership roles in family businesses? What can they do?
Mm. I think basically, I actually believe it's true, and I think it's kind of the humbleness that a lot of women often have due to other people's values and competences. But first of all, we have to believe much more in ourselves and our own competences. And I know that's very easy to say, but when I was in the family business, I finalized a big turnaround. First working together with my siblings, and then I chaired the company, and I finalized it alone, and I sold the business for very quite good value. And I was working very, very hard for the 7 years. It was an ongoing to come back on track. And the day when I left the company, I was stressed for two reasons. The first thing was that I suddenly was unemployed. And the second thing was I really had absolutely no belief in myself. And I could see, I asked the external partners that help us during the years to give me a quote. And I got the quote and I was like, wow, this is not just written with the left hand. They really found that I did some changes. But I think especially in the family business, but also in other kind of businesses or women going to top positions, the belief in yourself is a problem in the family business, because in the family business, you often don't get a positive feedback. You get questions or you get critic. So you will never really find that you're doing anything good. So you have to believe in yourself, and to do that, you have to make systems so that you can see that you achieve your goals. So every time you can like hook one goal off, you can say, yes, I did it. I am quite good. And
Eva,
I think it's harder for women than for men. Even that it's also hard for men to be in the family business. But in this particular case, I think the female are a little more hard to themselves.
you bring up an interesting point, which I observe quite a bit in my practice, is family members are not kind to each other, right? There's still a lot of banter and judging and criticizing and making wrong. And I think, actually, I don't think, I know they don't pay enough compliments to each other, right? And if we're constantly, as human beings, if we're constantly putting each other down, the other person is not going to really gain confidence. If anything, is going to get the reverse effect. So I think my opinion, and for those of you listening on the show today, is be kinder to each other. Pay a compliment when it's due, as opposed to a criticism.
I totally agree. And I'm really wondering about why is it that we as family members, can you say, approve each other to be totally filterless in the way that we,
I,
can I say it, in the business?
I think it's as my coach asked me once, he says, "How do you know you love someone?"
Mm.
And I didn't know the answer. His response kind of shocked me, and yet it makes sense. He says, we love someone because we're constantly testing them. We're testing their love, see how far we can push it. Will they leave me? Will they put up with me? Do they really love me?
Mm.
And I think in families, we see love from that perspective as opposed to the perspective of let's be kind and compassionate and really pull each other up versus putting each other down.
Mm. Yeah, because there's the old word to say that the one you beat is the one you love.
Yes.
And it works quite that much in the family business.
And and then the other piece, from a sibling perspective, there's the banter that goes on back and forth, which at first starts out like they're putting each other down, and then it becomes a way of connecting and humor and showing each other that they love them. And sometimes that banter can hurt because it's still hurt from the past. I see it in my kids. I was recently having dinner with my two adult children, and they're 25 and 23, and the banter's going on back and forth, and it's fun and playful. And yet there comes a time when some of the band crosses the line and a little hurt happens, right?
Yeah, and
And
I think it will happen. I mean, in a normal family who doesn't have a business, you can have fun and you can say evil words and you can say sorry. But when you go into the business and you start working together, it's so much about your competences as well.
yes,
And that's like the other side. When you doesn't have a family business, you will go to you will go at work, and that's where you show what you are able to do. But if you are a family and you go into the family business and you work together as a family and you still continue this way of treating each other, then it's really becomes sore and very a powerful way of putting each other down.
yes, and you talk about competencies. Most family businesses don't have any process or procedures, let alone governance,
Mhm.
right? And then the ones that do have governance make the assumption that the governance document, which is policies and procedures for running the business and ownership decision making, deals with the emotional dynamics, and it doesn't. Right? And that's why, in the work that we do, we help families create what we call emotional governance, which is how do we agree to treat each other as human beings, first of all, before we throw in the complexities of siblings and shareholders and directors.
Mm.
And, in agreeing how we treat each other, we come up with the family's guiding principles, which, could be things like respect or transparency or affirmation. And then we don't just come up with a word, we define it. So the definition of respect is this. And we take it one step further that says, here's the action you do to show you're living out the definition of respect.
Yeah, and
And,
that is
and it goes back to, we seem to forget that family businesses are made up of human beings, and human beings have feelings, and then we're emotional. We're emotional critters.
and what is interesting is that you have you have this compliance in the family businesses, but you don't have it in the family.
Yes.
And very often you can ask the question about, if I was treated this way in a in a in a job which was not my own, would I stay? No, I don't think so.
Right. And you'd probably sue them.
Yeah,
Right? You'd probably
definitely.
sue them. You'd take legal action against them, right? But
Yeah,
because it's family, it's okay. It's mom or dad
yeah.
or a brother or my sister. It's okay. And we
And you
seem to
go,
forget. We don't. It's like we put down our boundaries for the sake of, well, it's my family.
mm. Yeah, and you go a little further because you want to have peace in the family, and then okay, I just swallow that camel, and then I maybe take the next one. But then it's already too late because then you have crossed some borders, which is
Yes.
not good for the family and it's not good for the business.
Yeah. And then all of a sudden we've got these hurts back here from years and years and
Mm,
years. And
mm,
one day it explodes in the boardroom.
mm. But I would like to go a little back to about the women and family business, because you asked me what advice, and I think the belief in yourself is the most important, but also continuing being you, not try to copy other, because women have sometimes a tendency to copy men in high positions. And then we start doing that, then we could just hire a man. Because the diversity comes from that we are different. And that's just the strength of having more women in the businesses.
I absolutely agree. I think women bring an incredible, unique perspective to leadership roles, to board roles, that men just don't have the skill set for. Right? Most men are not as emotionally connected as women are. It's just right. They just don't have that skill set unless they've done a lot of work on themselves to get emotionally connected. They're not there. So it helps to have a woman, as a counterbalance, that one respects and appreciates the value they bring. And just to go back to the piece you were talking about being themselves, I think that is a human condition. We all want to be a part of, we all want to belong, right? That's one of our basic human needs. We're tribal. What happens, though, is we confuse fitting in with belonging. Fitting in is where we give away a part of ourselves to be in the group. Belonging is when we're our true selves, the good, the bad, and the ugly. And the tribe accepts us for who we are. The challenge is we want to be in tribes that we may not be a part of. And sometimes I've worked with a family member where she desperately wanted to be part of the family, but the fact that she didn't belong there, right? That she just was not part of it because of the family dynamics and a whole bunch of other things that I'm not going to get onto in the show here. But she was so desperately for so long trying to fit into this thing, just trying to mold herself to be part of this group. And she did some amazing work for the family. Then she realized, yeah, I'm not really part of this. So yeah, great. Be yourself and have confidence in yourself. Absolutely.
Yeah, and I also think I actually once had a discussion or a long conversation with a friend of my son when he was 18 or something like that. And he wanted to be a lawyer to make good money. And we had a long conversation about this, aiming for the money or aiming for something you like to do. And I think it's the same when you go into the family business, you really have to discuss with yourself, is this what I really want? And will I be able to work with what I would love to do? Because if not, you will never be the best. And this boy, he ended up finding out that he was going to be a pilot. And he is so happy today working, taking his education, because you will never make the best money as a lawyer if you only go for the money. And it's the same in the family business. You will never be good running your family business. Is the only reason you are there is because it's your family business.
Yeah, one of my clients said to me once early on in my career, he says, when you follow your passion, your pension will follow.
Yeah.
Right? Do what you love to do. Like, my team asked me, how do you manage the travel schedule that you do? I was just in Australia last week. I'm home for a week. I'm going back to Australia. And the answer is really simple. I love what I do.
Yeah.
I love when a client gets it, when they start to forgive each other, have compassion for each other, respect each other. Those are the moments that I treasure.
Yeah, I totally agree.
So, Eva, we're coming to the end of the show. So, thank you so much. Really appreciate, your wisdom and your insight, and you've just landed, so you've got to be a little bit all frazzled and stuff, not totally grounded just yet. I always like to end the show asking our guests one simple question, and it's the same question for both the senior generation and the next generation. And the question is, based on your experience and your wisdom, what's one piece of advice you could offer both groups?
I think focus on each other's competences. Make your siblings and your family strong in believing in each other.
Beautiful. Beautifully put. So, folks, there you have it. Eva's wisdom from India right now, even though she lives in Denmark. And as you know, our guests donate their time, as does mine and our production team, for you, because the reason for this whole podcast is we recognize that being part of a family business is a very lonely place, particularly around the emotional struggles and the emotional dynamics that we have in family businesses. The outside world goes, you're a successful business, but they don't see the struggles that you're going through internally with yourself and each other. So this show is for you. So having said that, if something really speaks to you here, drop Eva and I a note. Just let us know, what thought of it, but most importantly, share it. Because, it's really about sharing. So, Eva, if people wanted to reach you and find you, how would they find you?
They could find me at my homepage, which is evafischer.dk.
There you go. There you go, folks. That's where you can find Eva. Go seek out her wisdom. Eva, thanks for being on the show.
You're welcome, and thanks for having me here.